Hi everyone, it's Tox from CritsHappen.com. Thanks for watching and welcome back. We're here with another critical preview where we take a game that's about to be on Kickstarter, put it through its paces, and then tell you about our experiences we've had while playing it. This isn't meant to be a review or a critical strike. It's designed to be a highlight of a game that may be of interest to you. And if so, you can check out their project page in the links below in the YouTube description or at the end of this video. Today we're going to look at a 16-bit auction building game called Pixel Glory. Now, Pixel Glory is very retro. The idea is that you are wizards vying for fame, and it has some really interesting mechanics between last hitting, bidding, and deck building. There's a lot of different things that are happening, but it's actually quite easy to learn. So come with me, get your best wizard's hat and robe, get your scepter and spells ready, and let's delve into the world of Pixel Glory. So here you see the setup for a 4-player game of Pixel Glory. The whole idea is you are a wizard about to be training in town to then go into the dungeon, defeat big bad nasty monsters, and gain fame. In fact, you are fame hungry as a wizard. So much so that you want to be the wizard to last hit and kill a monster. Remember that. It's a key piece when we get into that part of the game. But the game is broken down into two different phases, and the first phase is all around auctioning and bidding. The first thing you're going to do to set up the game is shuffle all of the spell cards and put them face down to the side. You're then going to separate each of the 3 essences between earth, fire, and water. Now, one of the things that I pointed out to the designers at Gen Con when I first played this is, well, this is cool that they're very simplistic and easy. They look exactly the same if you're colorblind. So they did mention that there's going to be some work done on these. As always, this is not indicative of the final artwork that you'll see on the game for the production copy. But they did say that they were going to work to make them a little more unique to each other and not something that looks the same if you're colorblind, which I thought was really cool. Then each player is going to get a deck of 9 cards, and these are numbered 1 through 9. Again, these all look the same right now, but there is some discussion around how they could color them differently so that each player's deck has a different color. Those values are what you're going to use to bid on getting spells that come out of this deck. In addition, there is a dungeon deck. Now, there's some that are separated up here, and there are some that are shuffled together to make a deck. This is a 3 or 4-player game. In a 3-player game, you're going to shuffle all the monsters, deal 12 random face down, and then put the Dungeon Lord on the bottom. In a 4-player game, you're going to do 15 monsters. So while there's 25 total monsters, the game has a lot of replayability in terms of different types of dungeons that you're going to see as you continue to play the game. Let's go ahead and set up our first round of auctioning and bidding and show you how this works. Okay, so here we are with 4 players having their own bidding decks ready to go. Now you're going to be able to pick whatever card you want to pick. In this case, we've kind of randomized some things and we're not sure which player is going to bid on what, so it'll be a little bit fun for us to go through together. One of the interesting things is that you're going to flip over at the beginning of each phase, you're going to flip over a monster card. Now, this is not a monster that you're going to go fight right now, but it gives you information about the type of monsters that are going to be in the dungeon. Now, as you can imagine, there's not as many rounds bidding and auctioning as there are monsters in the dungeon deck, so you're not going to see all of them, but you would get an idea as to what type of monsters you're going to fight. This is a blub, and it has a weakness to earth spells. It's got 8 hit points, and if you defeat it, you receive 1 fame. And remember, at the end of the game, if you're the wizard with the most fame, you win. Next, we reveal 1 spell card for each player. So we get a Rock Throw, which is an earth spell, a Pressure Sphere, which is a water spell, a Sky of Ash, which is a fire spell, and Light, which is also a fire spell. Now you'll notice that there are different essence bubbles on the bottom of each of these. While we're wanting to get spells that will help us defeat these monsters, when we learn these spells in town in this phase, we're also going to gain essences equal to the number of bubbles on the bottom of the card. So let's go through and see who would be able to win first. The first thing that would happen is each player is going to pick a card secretly from their 9 cards. So in this case, we'll flip these over. This player has an 8, this player has a 1, this player has a 5, and this player has a 4. So the player who played the 8 would get the first pick of all 4 of these spells. Now, it says here that this spell deals 3 damage, and it's an earth spell which the blub has a weakness to. So I very well may want to be able to get that. So as this player, I would get this and put it into my acquired pile. I would then also take the total number of essences equal to the bubbles on the bottom. In this case, it's 1 green essence. So I would take that and put that into my deck as well. The 8 would get discarded and put off to the side, and I would not have access to that later in the auctioning and bidding. Then it goes from highest to lowest. So the 5 person would go next. They might say, okay, I want to go ahead and get Sky of Ash, which deals 2 damage for each fire spell or fire essence played this turn, which is tremendously cool because I also get 4 fire essences. So I would take all 4 of those and put them in my discard pile or acquired pile as well. Then the 4 player would go, and they may get the light spell, which says to draw 2 cards, and they would gain 3 fire essences from what is on the bottom of that card. And then the 1 player would go, and he would have his selection of only the remaining last card. Now this one, you'll notice, doesn't have any spheres, any essences on the bottom, so they're not going to gain any. They're just going to get that 1 card. Now, in addition, the player who selects last also gets a tiebreaker token, and that's very important, so we'll go ahead and keep that there. That's important because if players are tied on their auction cards, the person with the tiebreaker token is the one who will pick first. And at the end of each auction round, the person who selects last gets the tiebreaker token. Now, we would do this again. So, at the beginning of the next auction phase, we would flip over another monster, and this time we have a Scorching Goblin. His weakness is water, and he has 10 hit points. And if we defeat him, he gives us 2 fame, which is really good. So we would then, again, flip out 1 card from the spell deck for each player involved. In this case, there's going to be 4. We get 2 earth, a fire, and another fire. So there's no water spells, which is what the Scorching Goblin is actually weak to. So again, each player would randomly or secretly select a card. We'll go ahead and flip these over and see the order that we get. And in this case, we have 2 5s and 2 7s. Now, in this case, we have 2 ties. So 2 different things are going to happen. The 2 players who played the 7s are going to be broken. They have the highest number. Their tie is going to be broken by the player closest to the left of the person with the tiebreaker token. So that would be this player. So he has a lot of fire essences, and if you remember, he selected a spell called Sky of Ash, which allows him to deal 2 damage for each fire essence played this turn. So he may want to get more fire essences. So he is going to take this spell called Fire, and he will also get 3 fire essences with that. Then the other 7 player is going to go ahead and go, and he has already got earth spells, so maybe he decides he wants to diversify a little bit, or he could decide to get more and go after the Vine Whip. And these are some of the choices that you'll make throughout the game. Now, you obviously would like to diversify because each different monster is going to have a weakness to different types of spells. And if you have all of one spell, the odds of you defeating all the monsters that you encounter are going to be pretty slim. However, there is a strategy to also go very heavy into one spell, one archetype or essence, so that you can consistently do a lot of damage and make sure that you're killing and one-hitting or last-hitting the monsters in the dungeon of that specific type that are weak to it, and start to rack up fame points that way as well. So let's say the 7 player decides he wants the Vine Whip. He would then take 3 green essences as well. And then each of the 5 players that played the 5 cards, their tie would be broken by who has the tiebreaker token. So in this case, this player would go first. He may take the Raise spell and get 2 fire essence with it. And then the last player would go and get Purge and get 2 green spells or green essences with it. And play is going to continue like that until you have gone through all of the spells that are available. You're going to get to see a good majority of the monsters that are in the dungeon and know what you're planning for, so that you're not just walking into the dungeon blindly. However, after this is all said and done, each player is going to shuffle their acquired decks. So all of the essences and all of the spells that you have won. And then the dungeon deck is going to have all the monsters shuffled and the dungeon lord placed on the bottom. So while you know some of the monsters in the dungeon, you don't know the order in which they're about to come out. Let's progress this and take a look at what the dungeon delving experience looks like. Okay, so we're through our bidding and auctioning phase, and we're on to the dungeon delving phase. In this phase, the player with the tiebreaker token at the end of the auction bidding is going to go first. Let's say it's this player. He's going to draw 4 cards from his deck. Now this consists of the essences and the spells that he acquired during the auction and bidding phase. He's going to look at his hand, and then he is going to flip over 3 monsters from the dungeon deck. There's always going to be 3 monsters out to fight, and they're not going to get replaced until one dies. Now, these again, we saw some of them during the auction and bidding phase, but these have all been shuffled back up. So, we get a Seeking Goblin, we get a Wicked Candle, and we get a Scorching Goblin. The Seeking Goblin will give us 2 fame if we defeat it. The Wicked Candle will give us 1 fame, and the Scorching Goblin will give us 2 fame. They have 10, 8, and 10 hit points respectively. However, the Seeking Goblin has a weakness to earth, and the Wicked Candle and the Scorching Goblin have a weakness to water. What does that mean? Well, weakness means that if you deal a damage to that monster with that type of spell or essence, then you deal an additional damage. Each essence that you drafted will deal 1 damage naturally. So when I look at my hand here, I have the potential to deal 1 damage with one of these essences to either the Wicked Candle or the Scorching Goblin, or 2 damage to the Seeking Goblin because of his weakness to earth. Additionally, I have a spell called Vine Whip. This deals 2 damage, and I can discard a monster card you've defeated. If I do, I deal 10 damage. Well, I don't have any monsters that I defeated, so this may actually help me later in the game. So one of the things you can do is called stockpiling, and on each turn you can stockpile 1 card off to the side for later turn. That leaves me with my 3 essences of earth. Now, cooperative and competitive come into play in the dungeon. Cooperatively, we want to work together to get through this dungeon and get to the last boss. Competitively, I want to be the person to defeat the monsters and kill them with the last hit so that I gain them and I gain the fame. So if I were to deal all 6 of my damage to the Seeking Goblin, I would get him down to 4 hit points. But there's a pretty good chance over the course of the next 3 turns, my opponents could finish him off, and I don't want that. So instead, I'm going to discard 1 essence to deal 1 damage to the Scorching Goblin. I'm going to discard another essence and deal 1 damage to the Wicked Goblin, or Wicked Candle. And then I'm going to discard my last essence and deal 2 damage again to the Seeking Goblin because he is weak to earth. Now, that's a little bit of damage, but I haven't killed anyone. So I get a combo point. Now, why are combo points good? At the end of any turn that you did not kill a monster, you get 1 combo point. And at any time in the game, you can turn in 3 combo points to instantly kill any boss, excluding the Dungeon Lord, or draw 4 new cards. That can become very powerful. So, the first player did a little bit of damage, didn't kill anyone, stockpiled a card for later, and now it's on to the next player. Let's go ahead and take a look at what he has. He draws 4 cards. And he has a lot of different essences is what he has. He has the ability of 2 fire essences, an earth essence, and a water essence. He didn't get any of his spells, so it doesn't look like he's going to be able to kill anyone. But again, this is going to become quite dangerous in terms of attacking and bringing people down to a range where someone else might be able to kill them. So let's go ahead and deal 1 damage with the Earth Essence to the Scorching Goblin. We will deal 1 damage with the Fire Spell to the Wicked Candle, and then we will deal 2 damage with the Fire and Water to the Seeking Goblin as well. Now once again, this player did not get any kills. He did not kill any monsters, so he also gets a combo point as well. Then we move on to the third player. The third player, she would get Essences and Cleanse. Deal 2 damage. You may remove one of your Essence spell cards from the game. Interesting. So that allows you, when you're reshuffling cards back into your deck as you need them, to thin out the essences in your deck, which could be really good. Well, right now we don't really have any, and I may or may not want to go ahead and get rid of these. However, the more important thing is it deals 2 damage. There's 6 health left on this Seeking Goblin. I could deal 2, 4, 6 damage and stockpile this card for a later turn. So again, because the weakness of the Goblin is Earth, each essence would normally deal 1 plus 1, so that's 4 damage, plus 2 damage from the Cleanse, and deal 6 damage for a total of 10, killing that monster. So I would get that monster and put that in my victory pile, and I'd gain 2 fame and I would be leading. Then there would be another monster that would come out, and in this case it's the Dungeon Keeper, and he's pretty big. He has 14 hit points and no weaknesses. To defeat him, when you defeat him, you receive 3 fame, and each player draws 1 card and gains 1 combo point. Now, because this player did kill a monster, they do not get a combo point. So that would be the end of their turn, stockpiling 1 card for later use and being able to get 1 monster slain and start to gain fame to win towards the end of the game. You keep going through the dungeon, playing your spells, playing your essences, comboing up on different spells that you've achieved or acquired during the bidding phase, and then taking down all the big bad monsters. There's some spells that are really, really good. Some of my favorites are in the Fire family. Meteor is really cool. You deal 3 separate 1 damage packets, which is really nice. And then there is also a nice fire spell that is called, where is it? I thought it was in here. It's Flame Dance. Deal 6 damage to a random monster. Pick 2 monsters randomly and deal 6 damage to one of them. So you see that there's 2 different things that you could pick from on this card, and you pick one of them. So there's a lot of different options with the spells that are available to you. But in essence, Pixel Glory is a combination of auction and bidding and dungeon delving, where you want to make sure you're the person killing the monsters to get the most fame. So that's Pixel Glory. We've actually surprisingly had a lot of fun with Pixel Glory. I was a little worried at first. I played this game at Gen Con 2013 with Frank Albers, the designer, and we had a really good time playing a 3-player game. However, something that kept sticking in my mind as I kept thinking about it was I was worried about how much replayability this game really had. And I'm really happy to say that it has hit the table at our house much more than I thought it was going to. There's a lot of different things involved here. It's not quite a deck building game, it's not quite an auction bidding game, and it's not quite a dungeon delving game. But it takes really good aspects of each of those and mashes it together. And what it comes out with is actually quite successful. The thing that I really like about playing board games is engagement. The last thing that I want is to have a board game night when I'm sitting around a table with my friends or strangers or anyone, and we're just sitting on our phone and we're not really engaged in the game or in discussion with each other else. What this game does, from the very beginning, you have the auction and the bidding. So you're going to be involved not only looking at what other players are winning and taking to build their decks, but also strategizing over what cards they've used to use for their auction or their bid. So if somebody uses their 9 card right out of the gate, you start to realize, when can I play certain cards to ensure that I'm going to pick first in this auction bidding phase. And that's really cool. It keeps everybody engaged. But then even more so, this one little detail of the last hit mechanic in the dungeon delving experience is really cool. Because what's going to happen is, usually you're not going to be able to kill a monster with 1 shot. So you're going to need the help of each of your opponents. And it's kind of cooperative and kind of competitive in that way. And it's really cool, because what happens is you sit down at this dungeon, you walk in and you have these monsters in front of you, and you know that you're not going to be able to maybe defeat all of them or even one of them, and you need help from your opponents. You're going to want them to do damage so that you can do the last hit. However, there's going to be times where you have to do damage and you're trying to strategize, will they have enough firepower to go kill something that I've damaged, or will it make it around to my turn so I can then finish it off as well? So there's a lot of engagement and a lot of interaction, remembering what people got during the auction bidding phase, what they've used so far in the dungeon phase, and then how you can time things out so that you can get that last hit. And it's made it really fun and really engaging. So overall, we have had a great time playing Pixel Glory. And it doesn't hurt as well that it's 16-bit, really cool kind of graphics from the retro 80s. If this is something that is of interest to you, you can check out their Kickstarter page and the links below in the video description, or we'll have a link at the end of this as well as an annotation. But in the meantime, we want to hear from you. Let us know your thoughts and comments below by leaving a comment on the YouTube page. You can also join in the discussion on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Google Plus by searching Crits Happen, or at our homepage at critshappen.com. But until we see you next time, we hope that you enjoy all your spell slinging, auction bidding, dungeon delving times inside of the 16-bit world of Pixel Glory. Thanks so much for watching. Keep rolling those dice, and we hope they're all crits.